Good evening, and this is Michael Graham with Module 1 for edl8531. Personal information about me. I'm originally from Hayesville, Kansas, which is also now where I teach. And I also coach and head soccer coach at Hayesville West Middle School, which makes my life a little entertaining because I teach at one school and coach at the other. Played soccer for my entire life. That's how I paid my way through college. Earning a bachelor's degree from Bethel College in history and a bachelor's degree in education from WSU. Pictured down there in the green. Married, father of 3 human children, 8 fur babies. So my wife, Tasha, pictured there next to me. My 3 children, Emma, Luke, and Chase. Dogs, I got Philo, Bella, Chewbacca. Pele recently passed, unfortunately. 3 cats in Cookie, Oreo, and Eden, all belonging to my children. My cat, Karma. And then 2 newborns that were given to us by their mother, Oreo, of Eden, Squirrely Dan and Dairy. So, on to talking about inclusive school culture. So, the summaries, I'm going to try and blaze through these. There's a lot on this presentation, and unfortunately, I only have 15 minutes. So, we all read most of these articles. I'm just going to point out some of the things. I really thought that the 7 ways to create an inclusive environment was a great way of showing support, especially because it does talk about academic support, making sure that teachers have the training and the curriculum they need to make that a possibility. Next was the inclusive leadership in education. Effective schools and education systems are solely based, well, not solely based, but really highlighted by their leadership. If their leadership is good, if their leadership calls and practices this inclusive atmosphere, then normally they're very successful in implementing it. 10 reasons for inclusive schools. This is pretty much just a basic list. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. What is inclusive education? How can you implement it? This is a great source as it really started to get into ways of not just talking about what an inclusive environment was, which is what the first few were. This was actually ways in which teachers can directly start to implement these in their classrooms, as well as for administration to start finishing that up as well. Roles and principles in successful inclusive schools. This is a great way to help give a blueprint and give help to start as an administrator if you're looking to make your school more inclusive. The inclusive school article discusses the fact that as students grow older, more and more of them are excluded. I really love this point because I know as a middle school coach, I have tons of kids that come out. I get normally 45 to 50 kids that come out for my soccer program every year. I can't keep all of them, which kind of stinks. But I know of the half that I keep, half of them don't play at the high school level either. So I see that every day with that kind of inclusion. I know that's not necessarily what we're looking at here, but it is a good ideal. Developing an inclusive culture. They talked about the 4 strategies that helped. This is from New Zealand. I really liked their idea of how if you learn about all the kids in your classroom, you gain knowledge and you gain ways to include them. My district does a great job with this. We have the Captured Kids Hearts program, where it challenges us as teachers to really get to know our students. And I think that's honestly, to toot my own horn, is where I'm really strong at. My kids come back year and year after and talk to me and make me feel like I do a good job of that. The value of inclusive education really talks about how much you value diversity and how it can be a strength in your classroom, not a hindrance. Creating inclusive schools for students. This is basically a case study. I felt like it did a good job of pointing out different schools, what they did well at, what they struggled with, and kind of really showing that really no school is truly 100% inclusive, but you can get really close. Tips on creating inclusive schools in the classroom. This is a good one, as it really did start to create that blueprint of how to get it into the classroom. On to the question piece of this assignment. So define inclusive school culture. Okay. Use these quotes. In inclusive classroom culture values and recognizes the contributions of all students, their families, Wahanu, and communities. As well as we can define inclusive education as a teaching model where all students, regardless of their ability, learn together in one environment. So basically this means that everybody is valued, everybody has their feelings, opinions taken into account when changing things up and when doing things in the classroom, and is geared to make sure that all students feel successful no matter of their ability. Education. Inclusive education is being different and diverse students learning side by side in the same classroom. This really goes into learning about how to do it as well as what it looks like. Leadership. Effective school and an education system leaders take time to listen and communicate with all the stakeholders. This is the biggest thing that you can do as a school leader. Inclusive leadership really does set that bar of getting everyone's opinion and making sure everybody is heard and valued. Inclusive culture, creating that inclusive culture, and my role as it pertains. The school's principal's active participation is the single most important predictor of success in implementing change, improving services, or setting a new course. This pretty much nails exactly the role of a principal. Little backstory. My building is going through changes right now. We have a brand new principal, and we're 2 weeks in, and you can already feel the change throughout the entire building. The students know, they see him, he's visible. What he wants has been clearly laid out to the staff. Staff has towed the line. It is a completely different environment to work in. And same thing with inclusion. If you have a principal who really pushes that, which this principal does as well, it really makes it a lot easier. So if you are the one stepping forward and doing it and showing it, and you're practicing it too. So when you're in staff meetings, when you're in those type of meetings, you're listening to everybody from the head football coach who always gets his way because he brings all the money in for the school, to listening to the art teacher who's rarely ever heard, and her ideas are sometimes a little out there, and listening to all the other voices that you have, even the grumpy ones that necessarily don't want to always have the best opinions. But if you at least give that perception of listening and hearing them and maybe trying some of their things, it makes the environment a lot less hostile and much more inclusive. Advocation. So there are many ways for principal to help encourage their staff and encourage their staff to provide an inclusive school environment. One of the biggest things they do is providing that education, get people in to make sure that they know what inclusion actually truly means. Most people just think inclusion means, okay, well, I'm going to get a couple kids from the SPED room, get a couple kids from the BD room, and it's more than that. I take it very seriously. I love my inclusion students. I get kids from all walks of life, from behavior issues to, we have a strictly autistic room in my school due to the large influx of kids we've had with autism come in the last 10 years into our district. And I absolutely love those kids. I take it as a personal challenge on getting them to feel comfortable and making sure that they feel included in the classroom. And I know that years later, it still means a lot. Next question. Creating a culture. It's a little bit inside of this. So the best way to create this culture is to make time for collaboration, break out into teams, schedule time for everyone's calendar, make it professional development a priority, encourage teachers to talk about students they share. This is all ways that we know that we can improve things. So if we set that goal of improving our inclusivity, then we have to make sure that our training, our collaboration time is all geared towards how we can improve that and make that a better step forward. Attacking negative. There's always going to be people that don't want to change or think it's a waste of time or don't want to teach those kids. There's always somebody out there that people just, you got to push past the negative. You got to separate. Make sure they understand special education provides no guarantees of success for children who need special attention. Okay? So just leaving them in their SPED rooms, leaving them in their BD rooms, in their autistic rooms, does not mean they're going to be successful. They need to integrate because, let's face it, 90% of them, when they get out of high school, they're going to integrate into society. Very few of them get to live in halfway houses and that's not casting a wide enough net. So there's always going to be negatives. I really like the source here because it gave a great way to kind of attack those. So concluding thoughts, I do have a better understanding of inclusion because the articles read and worked with. My educational leaderships have grown a little bit after completing this assignment in terms of resources. Really, this just gives me more tools to use in the tool bag. This slideshow will help me give resources to help future students, to help set up inclusion classrooms, as well as help staff, training, use some of these sources. Relevant learning based on me has gave me an introduction to inclusive classrooms as well as this class itself. Didn't change my mindset at all. I strive in my classroom to create an inclusive environment as much as I can. I feel like I am successful. I do a pretty good job of that, or else I still wouldn't get these classes, wouldn't get these kids in and get as many as I do. My school and community value inclusion very highly. It's one of our non-negotiables in our contract. It's one of the things that happens in every classroom across the district. It's commonplace. We all understand it. Did this help me? It didn't. I'll be honestly, this just added to my anxiety due to the fact that I've had a ton of stuff dropped on me. We had a lot of staff leave last year, and the principal who came in, I've had previous working experience with. So now I'm doing 3 other positions in my building that I had not done previously, as well as I picked up high school soccer refereeing for the fall. So I have been swamped in this length of this many articles and all that stuff, to be honest, flooded me out a little bit too much. Thus being why I'm turning this assignment in on a Saturday night. Really, it helped just add a few resources to my tool bag. And as a future leader, will strive to make sure the classroom environment and school environment is as inclusive as possible inside my building. I think it's vital to the health and well-being of all the students that they feel safe when they learn. If you don't feel safe, you don't feel taken care of, you don't feel valued, you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow. And you have to be able to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. We don't want that. Listed there is a bibliography. Thanks for taking the time. Have a great night, and I hope the best for all of you in this future class.